Coming Out, Moving Forward, Wisconsin's Recent Gay History, written by R. Richard Wagner, narrated by Vance Bastian, for Hank, Will, Paula, and Mark. Chapter 1. Stonewall Stirs the State. We were going to be a new kind of homosexual, not buying any of the old sick stuff. We were making history. We were supposed to be making history. Ron McCrae, Early Wisconsin Gay Activist, Oral History. Gay people, particularly the younger ones, were no longer begging for gradual change. They were demanding change right now and were prepared to fight for it. Eldon Murray, Gay Liberation, 5 years after Stonewall, 1974. The June 1969 action at the Stonewall Bar in New York City, where gays rioted in response to a licensing raid by police, became a signal to homosexuals all across the country that a new activist response to legal and social oppression was possible. Individuals in some areas saw the signal and responded. Others did not. Wisconsinites, from a state deep in the heartland but with a progressive tradition, received the signal and immediately took up the challenge. The Stonewall riots have assumed a mythic place in gay history and are surrounded by other myths. One bit of lore is that Judy Garland's funeral contributed to the riots. Indeed, Garland was an icon for older, likely closeted homosexuals of the time who hoped they could be magically transported over the rainbow to someplace better. But David Carter, in his admirable Stonewall, The Riots That Sparked the Gay Revolution, has shown that Garland's death did not influence the actions of those who fought back against the police on those New York nights. Wisconsin's gay activists of the 1970s frequently used Stonewall as a marker in their memories of the battle for rights. In 1974, Eldon Murray, a key figure in Milwaukee's gay community, wrote a long article in GPU, or Gay People's Union, News, Gay Liberation, 5 years after Stonewall. Among other resonating memories, he recalled a leaflet circulating in Greenwich Village in mid-July after the riots that stated, "Do you think homosexuals are revolting? You bet your sweet ass we are." Murray retrospectively understood that older gay groups, such as the Mattachine Society, were too conservative in their attempts to garner attention or inspire action in the 1970s. He wrote, "Perhaps without fully understanding it, the old homophile movement had laid the groundwork and raised consciousness of the gay community to the point where a liberated outlook was possible." In a GPU News editorial of October 1971, Murray noted that these earlier organizing efforts relied primarily on fellowship and education to achieve the aims and goals of our minority. Other social activist movements of the 1950s and 1960s, such as those for black civil rights, the peace movement, and the hippie explosion, had paved the way for a new activist gay liberation effort. As Murray saw it, gay people, particularly the younger ones, were no longer begging for gradual change. They were demanding change right now, and were prepared to fight for it. About the aftermath of the riot, Murray wrote, "Only a few persons realized that a momentous change had taken place." Mainstream media in Wisconsin did not devote much reporting to the New York bar raid and subsequent developments. To read about the Stonewall riots, I can remember going to Snappy's Place, an old-time newsstand shop on King Street in Madison, and buying the Village Voice, which covered that summer's events, many of which happened in and around Greenwich Village. Jeremy, an early writer on gay liberation in Wisconsin who, like many gay early activists of the period, did not list his last name, also wrote about having to use the Village Voice as a source. Don Schwam, who has chronicled Milwaukee's gay history and was active in gay rights in the 1970s, recalls, "The Stonewall events of 1969 allowed more homosexuals to come out of the shadows and demand to be seen as people with rights just like other minorities." Murray recollected that during the summer after Stonewall, several small meetings were held in Milwaukee as an attempt to start a local gay organization. Nothing came together quickly, but by fall 1969, several Milwaukee gay writers were contributing to Kaleidoscope, the local underground paper, which put out a gay supplement that winter. Gay news items came primarily from the national Liberation News Service. A more formal organizational effort in Milwaukee would not occur until spring 1970. In Madison, News of Stonewall also galvanized people. Mike Lutz remembered the activist groups and, specifically, the Dow chemical riots on the Madison campus in the late 1960s.